Welcome, everybody. I'm Mumbles.
I'm Josh.
I'm Seamus.
I'm Chris.
And I'm
I'm
Rootscar.
disappointed by
And
how little
today
these horkers
we're
flew.
Skyriming. And by
So
Skyriming, I mean crafting.
Yeah, so
Order
we're going to be doing
sounds like-
something different this week.
Something
Yeah,
different from the last
so...
dozen episodes of trolling NPCs, wandering through the frozen wastes, and staring intensely and longingly into the eyes of a non-player character as they explain to us something that Josh isn't going to act on anyway.
The fuck
Well,
was
when you
that?
say it like that, it makes it sound like maybe it's not awesome.
Yeah, and it
And that
makes me
can't be
wonder
true,
what
'cause I-
Josh could possibly be doing this week that's less engaging than that, because you know he's not stepping up.
Yeah. I hope you guys like inventory management, because this is the
So-
inventory management episode.
Don't leave, don't leave, don't leave, viewers. Wait until we finish.
We're doing
Yeah,
a
so,
mailbag, so there's a reason to stick
There's my
around.
horse again.
So we're going to answer questions
No.
just to keep this from being completely insufferable. So that this is probably only going to be like, I would say maybe 80% insufferable as opposed to like 100%. So,
Which
you know,
is
that
like
seems
better than our
reasonable to me.
normal average, so...
And it's better than actual Skyrim crafting, which is just, 95% insufferable. But this is like Skyrim crafting, but with a bunch of people that are ignoring the crafting, bullshitting over it. So, you've got that going for you.
Yeah,
And you know what?
basically
I have
the
a
plan
long
here
history of ignoring crafting in Elder Scrolls game.
is to totally and utterly break the crafting system, because we don't really have enough time to level up to the extent that you would normally do in a normal Skyrim playthrough, but we still kind of want to show what it looks like when you do some of this stuff. So
Oh, thank goodness you've still got that stolen Imperial officer's helmet. I was
let's
worried.
see, we need
that we wouldn't
this,
have
this,
that.
this.
Oh,
This,
good.
this.
11 wolf pets.
Actually, no,
Hell.
we
Okay,
don't
so
those.
let's get to the questions.
Like,
Rutskarn,
first,
can
can
you
I actually
start
say
us
that
off?
I really like the idea that, like, oh no, this Imperial officer's helmet is stolen. You know, I can't sell that to any merchant. I need to legitimately acquire an Imperial officer's helmet and just, like, walk into a shop and plunk that shit on the table.
And then they'll totally be okay.
Did you steal that? Oh no, I took it off a dead officer. Oh, okay.
Well, what I love about this, speaking of crafting, is that I've had situations, I don't know if this is always the case, but I've had situations where I have taken an item and crafted it into something new and it was still marked stolen.
I don't claim to be
So
the
I
best
think
finest
stolen is an
person.
odor that is attached to an item. Because it has nothing to do with how the item looks or behaves or what
To be
properties
fair,
it
it's
has.
like, at that point you
Actually,
should
we
really
should
argue,
hang
this
on to this
isn't
stuff.
stolen, it's
Check in
found
size
art.
if you need it.
Maybe the NPC will be cultured enough to accept your argument.
So Rutskarn, can you dig us up a question?
Shoshan. Just 1 second to pull up my big ol' anachronistic paper list. Because I have brushed all of these questions on with a calligraphy pen.
Sure, we'll wait. We've got all the time in the world right now.
Dear
Josh is
spoiler warning.
encumbered.
We're one of the same kind, you and I. If that
Just
is
spoiler
what you
warning.
wish.
I spent 30 euros on the Steam sale, all of which I made off of the Steam market. What opinions do you have on the Steam market? For some reason I feel like Chris is going to have the most interesting things to say about this, so let's get him
Yeah.
out of the way.
I think I complained mostly about this back when the market was introduced. It's I don't know. Do you guys have any strong opinions?
I keep wishing I could use the market. Like, I've got old classic TF2 items. My son actually went through my inventory at one point and found, Dad, some of that stuff you've got is like worth $5. Like, I've got a whole stack of items that are worth $5 a piece. I've probably got like $100 worth of items there in my, but I can't bring myself to sell any of them. Like, I could
Oh, you know
turn that
what?
into value.
I
What's that?
actually sold a couple hats and some old vintage items from TF2, and I made enough money to get Transistor for free. So there you go.
Huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's it. I mean, I have a bunch of vintage items, and a lot of people back in the day when they got dupes, they crafted it into keys or crates or whatever it is people did with them, and I just let that crap just build up. Recklessly, because I didn't want to deal with it. And then, you know, come back like years later, and so I could sell this stuff for money, and
But
I've got a big
Seamus-
stack of trading cards, and I could sell, but I never.
How
feel
often
the
do you
need to.
play TF2? How often do you play TF2? How often do you play all the classes? Like, how
Right.
much value really is to keep all that shit? You know what I mean?
I know.
That's
Like,
easy.
there's no reason not to sell these things, and yet I feel, well, it's vintage though. I mean, that's like an old
Oh,
comic
come on.
book.
Yeah. Back when the crafting system was introduced, one of the first things I did. So, okay, I want to take you guys, for those of you who haven't played Team Fortress 2 or who weren't around back in the bad old days, which came right after the good old days and was supplanted by the even worse days. Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say TF2's changes have not all been for the better. But there was
Let's go.
the first thing they did was they announced that they were gonna add hats to the game that were cosmetic items. And I looked at them and I basically said, you know, these hats don't look all that great. You know, some of them are kind of novel, I guess, but I wouldn't wear them because they kind of break the character's aesthetic. I like the original
Yes.
design. I don't want a
Yes.
hat. And then, they said these hats are going to drop randomly. And I'm like, well, okay. I mean, I guess I don't really care if I don't get one then, or if I get one, fine, whatever. And then they only dropped, like, once every 100 hours played. And whenever somebody got one, it was a
Yeah.
server-wide event, and suddenly I couldn't fucking help myself. I wanted a goddamn hat. I didn't care
We
which
are
hat, I just
so-
wanted something to put on my head. It really is like a great anthropological study in fashion and status.
Oh,
It's like
that's
suddenly
terrible.
having a hat meant
We
you
are-
were a have, and not having a hat meant you were a have-not. It's like
But-
not having, like, designer jeans in middle school.
But if you bought a hat, you were considered a sucker. People who got hats through drops were considered like top tier, like cool dudes.
Yeah.
And I remember whenever a hat dropped while we were playing, like, you're right, the whole game would stop. People were like, oh my god, you got a hat? Let me see your hat.
Everybody stop and watch them do catwalks, like, down the middle of the map.
Seriously.
Here, oh, I've got a sentry over there. Let me blow it up so everybody can see what your fucking hat looks like. But it was so intense. It completely stopped the game, and it had nothing to do with the video game anymore. But I wanted one, and so I played and I played and I played, and finally, I got a hat because I didn't do any idling. So idling was when people would just leave their characters on a server for hundreds of hours unoccupied so that hats would drop for them. Because that was the only way to get hats. You couldn't even buy them back then, I don't think. So people did that, and I'm like, whatever, I'm just not going to bother. Because, you know, that's my computer's going to fucking overheat. And what happened was everybody who didn't do that got a reward, and everyone who did that got their items stripped away and kind of got slapped on the wrist. And this is another great example of Valve's transparency, just being such a boon to community relations. Because they didn't say they were going to do this, they never said idling was bad. This one day they said, we're going to take away everything from everybody who's done this, and we're going to give everybody who didn't a literal Halo. That's
You're
what
right,
I got.
They never
I have
said-
the
most annoying looking hat.
I wore that hat, and then somebody told me that was really uncool to wear that hat, and so
Oh
I stopped
yeah,
wearing it.
super uncool. Like
So-
the
like,
most
it's-
uncool.
It's the equivalent of my kid is in honors club kind of bumper
Yeah.
sticker uncool.
Yeah,
Worse.
basically that's it.
Worse. Like
Yeah, it's like, I'm an honor
kid who
student.
Sucks up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a kid who wears a T-shirt saying "I'm an honor student" and he wears it every day.
Yeah.
That's what you wish.
Yeah, that's basically it. I didn't have a cool T-shirt, so then I got one because I wasn't smoking behind the school or something. I got one that said I was too cool for drugs, and now I'm much less popular when I wear that shirt. So I didn't wear the Halo. I didn't give a shit either. Too much.
I actually liked the Halo because it was not. it didn't break the look of the
That will
character
give you
too
your-
much. Like, some of those hats are just, like, characters unto themselves. The halo is just a little circle of color. So it was like a hat without wearing a hat. I like that.
One of my first hats was actually the fancy fedora, which was apparently like the most popular hat.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
You know,
And
that was
that
slightly
fit with the
before the
character.
fedora became uncool.
Yeah, and that really fit with the character design, too. Back in the early
Yeah.
days, when all the hats kind of really fit with the characters. I liked that. Before you had, like, I don't know, the pyro and a sombrero or whatever they have now.
How dare you? That's one of my
Okay.
favorite hats.
Is that a real
Anyway.
thing? That was me trying to
Yes.
come up with the most
that is
ridiculous
totally a real
thing.
I painted it
thing.
pink.
That's ridiculous.
It's one of my favorite ones. How
Like,
dare
I
you?
literally was sitting here thinking, okay, what's the most absurd thing that just they would never do? Okay,
So-
well, a sombrero, like, and who
It's
would
my
wear a
favorite
sombrero?
one.
The pyro.
Next to
So-
the birdcage.
Anyway,
That's
the
one of
point
my
is,
favorite
I really wanted a hat. I mean, I didn't like. I was like, it'd be really great if I could get an engineer hat because I play lots of engineer, or maybe like a heavy hat because I like heavy or scout or something like that. You know, I don't want a demo man hat because I never played demo man, and I really don't want a sniper hat because I've played like 2 hours of sniper ever. I suck at it. But there's anything else, and finally a hat dropped. It was a sniper hat, and it was Ritzy Rick's hair fixative. Which, for those of you who aren't in the know, it is actually the absence of a hat. It removes the
God,
sniper's
right.
hat,
Something
and
else
he's just
to
got
share.
hair.
So,
Oh,
for the record, I'm pretty sure the idling stuff, it's not idling that's bad. As I recall, they can't really prevent idling. There's nothing they can do to prevent people from connecting to a server and just not really playing the game. What the Halos were given out to anybody who didn't basically fake idling. People would set up little applications that would connect to the Steam API and say so-and-so account is playing Steam, and just sort of let Steam
Right.
know TF2 is running, and then because it's all done on Steam's backend, not TF2's backend, the Steam account would automatically start generating TF2 items for the players, and they detected that they were connecting from a fake client, and basically that's how you got detected.
That just made the argument a little more bitter, because now it's just clearly pissing and pedantics. Because they didn't punish people who actually just idled. They only punished people who used a third-party application that was exactly like idling.
but that didn't hog their computer. Like, that's
Yeah,
the
so it
point
was
of
actually-
it, isn't it?
It was actually worse than I'd remembered right there.
If that is what
Oh,
you
that's
wish.
so strange, though. But for me, I mean, I just can't bring myself to, like,
If that
in
is
terms
what you
of the
wish.
lifespan of TF2 and the way games age, having a vintage back burner is the equivalent of having a 30-year-old comic book. I mean, it's just hard to sell. Yeah, it feels
No
like it
way.
because technology ages faster than books. You know, we have this perception like a 10-year-old book is like, oh, that came out recently. Nobody thinks of Harry Potter as this ancient book. Nobody talks about the first Harry Potter like in terms of like it being this old book from the past. But if you want to talk about video games that came out when Harry Potter came out, you're talking about some old video games. So
I
there's
guess
that.
that's a good point.
Yeah, so there's that perception that video game stuff ages differently. So to me, the vintage back burner is like a super old comic book, and I can't bring myself to sell it, even
But
though
you
I will
have
never
so
use
many
it.
things.
I
But
know, I'm
Seamus,
such an
you have
idiot.
so many things. Sell some of. I mean, this is really just coming down to an argument that I have with my boyfriend about like things that he
Yes.
needs to get rid of. Because I'm one of those people that I don't have a lot of stuff. I don't need a lot of stuff. And then my boyfriend's the opposite way. He has like a bunch of shit. And I just
Yeah.
don't understand holding on to things. I just don't get it. I think it's just a different kind of
Stuff.
mentality.
And it's weird in real life. I tend to be like that. I don't want a lot of stuff. I hate having lots of crap. But in the world of digital, I am a hoarder, the worst hoarder. So
That's
I'm
funny.
hoarding this stuff, and the stupid psychological excuses I make for myself. It's like, yeah, I don't need 4 vintage back burners, but what if they're worth even more someday? I should keep these.
God, vintage back
Yes.
burners.
See, I'm actually in the same position as you, Seamus, because sort of where I was laboriously getting to was I ended up getting another hat, which was also a sniper hat. It was the fucking boater hat. And I,
You
back
get the
then...
lamest hats, bro.
Yeah, I know. And back then, and I believe still to this day, you could craft 2 hats together and get a new hat. So I did that, and I got a towering pillar of hats, which became vintage when that rolled over.
Yeah, that was the
pretty good
point
one.
for me where hats officially had gone too far. I was like, all right, that's kind of spoiling the look of the game, and it's just silly.
So,
It's the worst,
my
but I wear it all the time.
vintage hat, though,
Yeah.
is the vintage trialine or whatever, however you pronounce that. It was it was no, it wasn't a Tribly. It was the
Oh, the other one.
Meta cat. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was the Tribly. I'm gonna look this up.
I thought it had like a Y in it. And
Trinkets, odds and ends.
Oh my
I
god.
don't remember. Somebody's
It's a
gonna
vintage
look this up
Tyrolean.
on the wiki.
It's a vintage Tyrolean.
Yeah, there we
Vintage.
go.
You guys
See?
weren't even fucking close.
I would just like to
closer.
point out, not that we're watching the stream, but as we walked by the fountain, I want to point out that the vampires that we killed in like episode 3 and left on top of the town's fountain are just still on top of the town's fountain. I just wanted to point that
shouldn't
out.
they be
Please
ashed
It
just-
doesn't
by
make any
now?
sense. Even if nobody,
sun.
nobody touched them, they shouldn't be there anymore.
The sun.
Wow, if you blink, you really miss these reloads.
I know.
I'm like, did I just American Psycho hallucinate this?
Yes, get rid of it.
But
Nick,
I guess getting back to the core of the question about the marketplace, I don't mind it so much for items like all the TF2 hats and trading and crap. I guess I mind it more for what's going on right now with all the badges and the crafting and that stuff is more gross, I think, than the
I
actual
don't even
TF2 items.
understand this Steam sales stuff.
I
Right? I
know,
don't
it's
understand
like-
the teams. What is?
I never
Yeah.
look up the rules to these games because that way lies madness.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's basically the most convoluted punch stamp in the world. Like, you go to your local pub and you go there, and every time you buy a sandwich, you get a little tick in your card or whatever, and once you get 10 ticks, you get like a free thing. This is the most convoluted way to make it look like you're getting ticks ever. Where every $10 you spend, you get a Steam card
Really?
for the summer sale, and then if you get all 10 from the set, not just 10 Steam sale summer cards, but all 10 unique ones by trading and buying the cards, then you craft a badge and it gives your team a point. So every time you see that little point increase on your team, that's somebody crafting a badge out of 10 cards. But in order to get those cards, you either need to vote on every stupid sale, or go to buy $10 worth of goods, or etc., etc., etc. And
Can you
it's
use
pretty
cards that you have
and
right now in
you-
your
yes.
Yes.
basket?
And if you spend all this money to get all these cards, eventually your team might win, and 30 people you will never meet might get free video games.
I
Yeah.
can't believe it's only
30
30 people. That's
I
insane
know,
to
that's-
me. Do you know
No,
how
that's
many
like-
people are fucking?
Yeah.
Like out of millions of people, 30 of them and only a few wish list games.
Yeah,
That's
and they're-
ridiculous.
Wishlist
You're
games
handing
at
out-
random.
they're handing out 3
Ugh.
random wish list games to people when video games are literally at the cheapest they've ever been in human history. Like this moment right
so
now.
Stupid.
30 people. I mean, it's like if they didn't do that, nobody could prove it. Nobody could prove that they weren't giving them out at all, because it's a giant sea of millions of people.
I don't fucking know.
And it's at least like if I go to my pub and get my 10 sandwich stamps and I get a free
What
sandwich, I get to
the
pick my
fuck
sandwich and I
is
know I'm gonna get
happening
it.
Also,
here
you get a
right
sandwich.
now.
It's just like if you get
My
10
guy.
bucks,
Okay, this is almost creepy.
somebody else might get
This
a
is-
random sandwich. What the fuck?
I think we figured out why they haven't been removed yet. They're using them for their morning rituals.
Oh, Reginald, you're still in town. I didn't, Why didn't Lydia warn us? Where is she? She was supposed to keep an eye on... I mean... we're so concerned for her welfare.